I was in European Parliament of about 10, 15 years ago at a conference, and I met a European parliamentarian who was a Dutch member, and he took me for lunch, and we were sitting down and talking, and he said, given a situation or a circumstance where we Europeans choose to pick up guns against anyone in our continent, guess who would be the target? I looked at him and I said to him, what do you mean? He said, well, you don't have to worry about it. You would be the target. You Muslims would be the target. I said to him, why do you say that? He said, if we are given the opportunity, we will fire all our machine guns, all our guns at you, because we are led to believe that you are the enemy within.
Our great guests, no doubt. We've got some brilliant guests and getting their views at the same time, inshallah. Brother Ajmal Masroor, assalamu alaikum and welcome to Friday Night Live. We had John Boucher, who, just for your information, he's the Chief Constable from Bedfordshire Police, and I know you were very patiently listening to his comments, and as was Brother Moazzam Begg, and I'm going to bring in both of yourselves. He said his comments were, to just paraphrase, I hope this is a watershed moment. Do you think it's going to be a watershed moment for the politicians and for these institutions to really, take another, maybe take a moment before they make such, irresponsible comments and policies and create such an atmosphere towards the Muslim community?
Who would you like to go first?
Yourself, Brother Ajmal.
Sorry. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Obviously, it's a very don't want to use the cliched word watershed. I want to say it's a moment where we should all actually raise our voice as loud as possible to say, let me give you a story of what I'm about to say and its backdrop. I was in European Parliament of about 10, 15 years ago at a conference, and I met a European parliamentarian who was a Dutch member, and he took me for lunch, and we were sitting down and talking, and he said, given a situation or a circumstance where we Europeans choose to pick up guns against anyone in our continent, guess who would be the target? I looked at him and I said to him, what do you mean? He said, well, you don't have to worry about it. You would be the target. You Muslims would be the target. I said to him, why do you say that? He said, if we are given the opportunity, we will fire all our machine guns, all our guns at you, because we are led to believe that you are the enemy within. And it was quite chilling when I heard him say this 15 years ago. And I'm afraid his words are coming true every day. The constant rubbish that has been regurgitated by media, by politicians, by the so-called media pundits, it's been nothing but a vile mantra against the Muslims. It's based basically on very little facts, mostly on whipped up frenzy of feelings that have no basis. So it is a moment where we should stand very loudly and clearly and challenge this idea that you cannot continuously get away with it. And I think whoever was speaking earlier on, when I was called at the back of the conversation, I heard there are big players who are actually gloating at the misery of Muslims today. They may not have made this public, but they're gloating that a few Muslims have been killed. They couldn't say it, but somebody has done it for them. We have to say it loudly, my brother, and this is for the Muslims as well. Europe is our home. Britain is our home. Any country where we live, this is our home. And we're going to do everything possible to make sure this home is safe and secure and comfortable for all of us. And nobody's going to take that away from us.
Brother Moazzam, Ajmal Masroor, Europe is our home. A lot of people are now going to be feeling that, look, secularism has really failed to allow us to almost, make this our home, right? And it's not been able to accommodate, the people from the migrants or the people from, not indigenous to these lands. To what extent do you agree or disagree with Ajmal Masroor that Europe is our home and this is the place where we need to carve out a role for ourselves in these lands?
Well, he's right. Muslims have been part of Europe since Europe came into its own, and I'm talking about for over 1,000 years and even before that. And that's actually a very good example. Actually, is the Muslims of Bosnia. I went there during the war many times, and I saw Muslims who were Slavic, the same as white blonde-haired blue-eyed, being massacred and ethnically cleansed and a genocide against them because they were Muslims. Interestingly, the guy who carried out the attacks at Christchurch, he had in his manifesto language and references to that war. He was celebrating some of the stuff that the Serb Orthodox were celebrating when they were killing the Muslims of Europe. And so what we have to bear in mind is this, is that we talk about all of these attacks, the Muslim terrorism and so forth, but the biggest genocide that took place after World War II in Europe was against Muslims. We have to bear that is part of European history. And so for us to say that somehow the far right and the Muslim extremism are both the same, it's simply untrue. It's entirely untrue. And I'll give you an example. I didn't get a chance to respond to the police officer, but I'll tell you this. In 2014, I was arrested. Police entered my home, and I was told 150 police officers took part in that raid. 150. And over a period of 4 days, searched my home. They arrested me, and they took me to high-security Belmarsh prison, and they tried to prosecute me. You know what for? For sending a generator to the Free Syrian Army rebels. That was terrorism. So the police were implementing that very policy that they are saying is targeting the Muslim community for being Muslims, and not accepting that actually, what does that have to do with terrorism? And the answer is, of course, nothing. And I won my case in the end, and they apologized to me. But the point is that that's where they've been expending their resources. And simultaneously, the far right has been giving this narrative, oh, look, the Muslims are a threat, the Muslims are terrorists, and that's why the far right has risen, because the language of the government and people in power and policy are pushing that. So it's unavoidable that one feeds the other. And the government has still, nobody's taken blame, nobody's taken responsibility. Boris Johnson can make those comments and so forth, and still there's no...
Brother Moazzam, I've got...